Welcome to the Reginald Argue Show. Later on today, I'm going to be going down to the Amphitheatre here in Toronto. I'm going to be doing an interview with a band that hails out of Newfoundland. For 20 years, they've been together. I'm talking about the Great Big Sea. Bob and Alan have been gracious enough to allow us the opportunity to go and interview them later on today. So just stay with us and we'll be right back with the interview where they're going to be sharing stories, talking about some of their songs, and just having a great time. Welcome back. I'm sitting here with two members of a Canadian Celtic folk pop rock band called the Great Big Sea out of Newfoundland, Alan and Bob.
Hello.
Hey.
My name's Alan Doyle. This is Bob Hallett. Nice to be here. Thanks for having us, man.
Well, thank you so much. And the first thing I have to ask you, how do you explain the longevity of Great Big Sea? In 20 years, you just celebrated in March of this year.
I think many things, I hope. I hope people like the music and they like, I think they like the romance of a place that still has songs of its own, like Newfoundland does. But I think mostly, the biggest thing I think is because I think we've consistently given people a great night out, and I think that's in the world of music and entertainment, that's what people really look for the most nowadays is, they want to make sure if they're getting babysitters and traveling that they're going to have something good at the other end of it. And, as much as we always could, we always delivered that kind of a good evening for people.
And do you feel also another thing that helps with the creativity within the collaboration of your band is the solo projects that you're doing outside? I know, Alan, that you did Russell Crowe. You've been involved with Blue Rodeo, Bob and yourself, Sting, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, it's been fun the last couple of years, especially. We've kind of been treating Great Big Sea as the mothership, and we come and do it, and then we all venture off in our little pods, and we do stuff. Sean's got another record coming out, and Bob's got a management company and a restaurant and a pub interest in St. John. So it's so cool to have this to come to all the time, and like to sort of have Great Big Sea as your umbrella.
And there's one song that really stands out in my mind. Actually, there's two, but the first one I want to talk about is the one that's done on the history where the Newfoundlanders joined this regiment in World War I.
Yeah.
Only a handful of them returned. I think, Bob, you were the one that wrote that song. Could you explain a little bit about it?
Well, it speaks to an incident that happened in World War I, and at the time Newfoundland was still an independent country, and it formed its own army. And unfortunately, due to some spectacularly bad leadership, the entirety of the regiment was wiped out in one suicidal charge. And in fact, that happened twice more during the war. And at the time, Newfoundland only had probably 60,000 or 70,000 people living in it. And to lose 5,000 young men like that was devastating. And it really took, it was generations before the island recovered from that. So even though Newfoundlanders have a long history with participating in and being part of the military, it's also, that kind of marked Newfoundland history as to the dangers of these things. And, the problem of being a small place trying to run its own army. And, we wrote that song. So many songs in Newfoundland memorialize difficult and tragic events, but there had been none written for that one. I think this was just too difficult, really. And we were glad to sort of contribute to the canon.
And the next song that I want to point out is Ordinary Day. I know that one, as you listen to the song, there's a couple words that talks about, whether you fall down, the point is getting back up, brushing yourself and getting back up. Have you heard anyone come up to you after your shows and just come up to you and say something truly inspirational, how the song has helped them within their own life?
Oh, many times. That's one of the great things about that song, and a few of the ones that, like, from the traditional repertoire in Newfoundland, where songs have always been, celebrational for us, if not inspirational, and they've always been to, facilitate or initiate good times, and that's where I grew up in a little fishing town. That's what music always was. It was a thing to make a night go better, and the greatest singer wasn't the guy who sang the highest notes. He was the guy who got the most people to sing along, and so I think people see the light in some of our songs, and I think for other people and other writers, music isn't necessarily a place of light and a place of levity. It's something else, but it always has been that way for me, and I think I can speak for all the boys.
And you guys won Entertainment of the Year for East Coast Music 96 to 2000. 2001, you didn't submit your name because you wanted to give everyone else a chance. You've also been nominated for numerous Junos. The question I have to ask you, as you're entering into your hopefully next 2 decades to come, what other accomplishments you want to make within the music industry?
I'm not sure that we're, the awards and whatnot, I mean, it's very flattering, but I wouldn't say it's the reason we do anything, it's sort of not the reason we get out of bed. I mean, the biggest achievement for us is to keep the band going and still make creative music and provide entertaining shows. And that's simplistic, but that's what this is about. It's your ability to get up every night and make it all new for people. And that's, in the current music business, for a band that's been 20 years, that feels like that's enough ambition at this stage of the game.
Yeah. The journey, I've been saying, the journey is the destination. It's like you're here tonight playing this concert. What would you like to do next? Well, I'd like to be here playing this concert. That's what I'd like to do next. And like, it is, this is what we wanted to do when we were kids, and like getting to do it once is awesome, and getting to do it twice is a little bit better, and getting to do it 400 times is wicked. 401 times is a little bit better than that. 402 times is a bit better than that.
And I remember watching a YouTube where you're talking about your grandma, and then every time she saw you, she asked you, "Have you got a job yet, bud?"
Oh, my grandmother, nah, Betty Harbor. And she'd say, "Alan, honey, you still in the band?" And I'd say, "Yeah." "Not working?" "No, not working, man." "No, honey, it's not much on the go, is it?"
I mean, I think in Newfoundland, up until our generation, making music as a living was an absurd thing to do. I mean, people didn't, the most talented musicians in the world labored away for an audience that consisted of their family and their friends. Because there was no professional outlet, there was no industry, in most places there wasn't even anywhere to perform really outside of sort of church basements and whatnot. So we were the first ones who were able to avail of these opportunities. It just wasn't possible before us,
And looking back over your career, are there any stories on the road that happened behind the scenes that really stick out in your mind that may have helped inspire you to some of your music?
No, there's definitely not. Nothing happened behind the scenes one time, ever. It's just been fun, man. It's like the whole thing about, like, I've been talking about it a bit lately about how I think because we're successful, a bit, we've made it to 20 years, people think that we did that primarily because we made fewer mistakes than everybody else, and that's not true at all. We've made millions of little small mistakes and 4 or 5 humongous, massive ones, but it's all part of it, that's all, some of those were just gaffes of the day, like locking keys in bands or something stupid like that, and other ones were like idiotic business decisions that almost flattened us, or something like that, but that's been part of it, like the journey of it all. I don't know how you get here without doing all that stuff. I mean, I don't know many really successful people whose recent and distant past isn't decorated with folly as much as success.
And are there any places that you travel to that really stick out in your mind? I know you're quite fond of your home of Newfoundland, and all your songs are based on the traditional music and stuff in Newfoundland. But are there any other places you've been to which...
I think we all like New Orleans a lot when we were there, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. That's a question we get asked a lot, and it's hard for us to kind of pin them down because more often than not for us, I mean, we're not here on our holidays. So we're not sightseeing and eating at nice restaurants and going to see shows and walking up to see the castle. More often than not, we're in a situation like this. We're backstage waiting to play the concert. And the concert, can be in the most unlikely place in the world, can be the most amazing evening. And you can be in the best place in the world and the evening goes terribly. You can't kind of pin the success of the night on the geography. So I never have a very good answer to that question. I mean, the night where the concert's amazing and the crowd walk out the door singing the songs with sore throats, that's the best place to play.
And also at the same time, right before your show begins, are there any traditions that you guys have?
We've kind of steered clear of them in a weird kind of way. It's a rock and roll notion, I think. I play goal all the time when I play hockey. And goalies are notorious for superstition and ritual and that kind of stuff. And I always avoided it because I never wanted, the presence or absence of, the white shirt with the knot tied in the left sleeve to determine how good or bad the game went. And I kind of feel the same way about music, like about performance. Like I don't want any of that spooky stuff living in the spirit of the day, or in the karma of the evening. It's like no, it's just because this is all in our hands. We can make this good, right? Or we can make it not good. So I want it all to be on the table.
And do you feel like you're actually musical ambassadors from Newfoundland, showing the rest of not only Canada but the world, this is Newfoundland's culture?
I mean, I don't think we sought out that role, and we certainly don't think like that. But we kind of came to that by default, by being the Newfoundlanders that, often being the gateway to Newfoundland culture. But in subsequent years, there's many other ways people can find out about Newfoundland. The show The Republic of Doyle has really painted a postcard of Newfoundland across Canadian television screens, and people like Rick Mercer and Seamus O'Regan have waved the flag for Newfoundland culture. And there's lots more musicians out there now. So if anything, we just sort of raised the bar a little bit for everybody and made it possible. And but if people come to Newfoundland because they've enjoyed our music, that's a wonderful thing.
Are there any up-and-coming Newfoundland acts that really stick out in your mind?
No, there are no good young bands in Newfoundland at all. But you were mentioning earlier about what we'd like to do next, next phase of it all. And that would be, myself and Bob have talked about it a few times, how cool it would be to sort of, without being too old, and to be kind of the grandfathers of, like, that'd be such an awesome project to do next, to be like the band, the Great Big Sea with the Young Guns, or whatever you want to call it. And there's, bands like the Once and the Dardanelles and the Fortunate Ones.
Amelia Kern and Hey Rosetta.
That's just in the Celtic kind of world.
The sort of new generation of amazing artists
awesome,
who've taken, sort of often taken Newfoundland traditional music, and as we did, sort of combined it and recombined it, and mixed it and remixed it, and used that those ingredients to create all kinds of amazing new things. And we'd like to spend more time collaborating with them and helping them. And we've never been greedy, and it would be a wonderful thing to play with those younger people.
Are there any final messages you want to leave with people to help, the up-and-coming artists that they may not be from Newfoundland, but they're using you as a beacon of what to reach for?
I'm very reticent to give advice ever to younger bands. I always, because I think what people mean when they say, "Do you have any advice for it?" I think what they mean is shortcut. Do you know any shortcuts? And I go, no, don't. There aren't any. And guess what? This is totally possible. This is going to be the hardest job you could have chosen by a long stretch. Off you go. Make your own way, man. It's like, it's like no shortcuts. Don't expect one. Don't expect Tuesday to be easy because Monday was easy. Never going to get easier. Always gets harder. It always gets more rewarding. But, go boy, go.
Do you have anything to add there, Bob?
Yeah, I couldn't really say it any better. I mean, the thing that you have to do to become a successful musician is stand on stage and have people clap and want to come see you again. And that's it. There's no gateway or shortcut or formula. And it doesn't matter what kind of music you're playing, but people have to like you. And that's just so simplistic, but that's true. If people don't like you, then you're not going to be successful. So what you have to do is figure out how to do that, how to stand on stage, make people come back.
And you also have that box set, that XX thing that's available on your guys' website.
Mm-hmm.
It has some video in it too of your past. I know one of your fellow band members had the camera walk around for 2 years until you took it away from him.
Yeah, we were afraid. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. The whole XX box set is a really cool collection of 2 decades being together and making music and touring and traveling, and you can hear and see really cool stuff in there. And it's kind of funny for us to laugh at it because it was
shouldn't be that funny.
It shouldn't be that funny, but it was funny for us.
Well, thank you so much for your time, both of you
Nice,
gentlemen. You're truly an inspiration to everyone throughout Canada.